Hey, welcome back to Flying S Models. We've been doing a lot of standard plastic model kit work here over the past several videos, but I think it's time to kind of step things up a notch here, and let's get into some kit bashing. I don't know how many of you guys out there are like me, but I'm a huge fan of those one-off prototype warbirds, and there's about nothing cooler than the Republic XP-47H Thunderbolt. You can see here in this kit offering by MPM the difference between it and the standard Razorback from Tamiya. Now this is kind of a tale of two kits. I picked up the MPM kit years ago, probably for just a few bucks, not really knowing what I was going to find inside. When I open it up, let's take a look here real quick. I clipped off one of the fuselage halves. You can see here it is nothing too impressive. The plastic is chunky, panel line detail is kind of sparse, if any. Look at the dang sprue gate here, how big those things are here. I clipped those off. I think I'd have a pair of bolt cutters to separate the fuselage from the sprue gate. Not much detail in the vents. Overall, just kind of poor quality if you ask me. Now contrast that with the Tamiya kit. Kind of just an example of what modern computer age injection molding technology will get you. Probably the best 1/72nd P-47 kit on the market, if you ask me. Another quick example, if you just look at the right wing, you can see here the MPM kit. Look at just that excess flash here. Again, huge sprue gates, not a lot of surface detail. Here's the Tamiya part. Just a really nice wing section. Ton of detail, great surface finish. But the beauty of modeling is we can pretty much do whatever we want to do. And what I want to do is see if we can't combine both of these kits into a single build and make the ultimate 1/72nd XP-47H. Now this is going to be a little bit nutty, but what I'm going to do is basically separate the fuselage forward section here under the wing and get this large belly section all the way back here. I'm going to hack this off and see if I can't marry this portion here with the Tamiya kit. The Tamiya kit's going to be a little bit tricky because it's got a ton of fine details, so I'm going to be extra careful here, but I'm going to cut right along this panel line here, underneath here, and cut back here to this section. Remove this bottom piece and graft the MPM part onto this kit part. Or at least that's my hope and plan. Now I use regular Dymo label maker tape in order to serve as a straight edge for the scribes that I like to make. I've already laid it out along the line that I'm going to scribe and separate. To scribe, I'm going to just take a regular straight pin and a pin vise. I had to clip the head off so it would go in there, and I'm going to make several passes to score that line. Then I'll come back probably with a razor blade and cut it off. Now from the back side you can see the score line here, so it's just about ready to snap off at that line, but it can't until we make these cuts here and here and allow that whole piece to snap off. Now I've used the Tamiya kit part to trace the outline of what I'm going to cut to save this forward section of the MPM part. Now, as often happens when you're kit bashing, you make a mistake, and I kind of dorked this up a little bit and cut in the wrong location on this MPM kit, but that's no big deal. I cut off the part where I was supposed to. I'll just reattach it there, remove the leading edge stub here and fit it up to the Tamiya part. The beauty of kit bashing. There we go. Just about the way we want it. A couple small gaps here, but we'll fill those in easily once we attach it. And to attach these parts, we'll use the super glue with acrylic dental resin powder mixed together. And that way we'll get a nice strong bond, and we'll be able to rescribe those panel lines across the joint. Now you'll want to preserve as much of this nice Tamiya detail as you can, so I just like to cover it up with a little bit of tape and to protect it when we go about sanding everything in smooth. Now here's where all the fun work starts. I've got the basic sanding complete, roughed in. Now I just need to do the final sanding and polishing to get everything blended. So it'll go from looking, kind of like this to a little more finished look like this left fuselage half here. You can see that I've used different fillers to blend it in. We still have to come back and rescribe all the panel lines and put back in some of the odds and ends that were lost during the sanding process. But I'll go work on this right half, and then we'll see if we can't join the two together, tack them together with a little bit of tape, and see how it's going to look. So here we go, everything roughed in for both fuse halves. Got a few little issues here. You can see here misalignments that we'll have to take care of going forward, but I'll continue to fill and sand and then prime and get everything just the way that I want, and then I'll come in and rescribe all the panel lines, and once we get that complete, this thing will turn into basically a normal build. So with everything filled and sanded, I can now trace the panel lines that need to be reapplied. For that, I just found an image online of the XP-47, reduced it to the 1/72nd scale, and then used a set of calipers to take the dimensions right off of the drawing and apply them to the various panels on the fuselage. Now, I've also shown here in these hashed out areas a couple things that need to be fixed in order to make it more realistic. The exhaust here was actually a different style, and you can see here it's a little more elongated, a little more rectangular than kind of the square shape on the Razorback. So I'll remove this portion and build a new louver system for that. And then this intake here is pretty clunky. You can see it's just a solid blob. It's got a decent shape as compared to the drawing, but it has no intake. And rather than just drill out the intake here, I'll just sand this entirely off and apply a new one from a cut down section of styrene rod. So there we go. We've got the panel lines rescribed here in accordance with that drawing, and everything is filled in and looks nice. I've added a new intake on the front side using evergreen rod, and I've also cut away this louver here so that I can make a new one. So we'll do that in part 2, as well as continue to add a few other odds and ends, but we'll call it quits for now on part 1. I appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out the first session of this kit bashing of a 1/72nd XP-47H Thunderbolt. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and look for updates to part 2, as well as future videos from Flying S Models. Have a good one.